Hello folks. Little technical hitch there, couldn't get the mic working. to loop the track back around. But we've made it. Exiled Minds podcast with your incredibly famous host Liam Martin. Push his mic out of the way a bit. Yeah, sorry for the extra long intro there. I've decided I'll cut that out on the kind of stream when I start doing it. When I clip it later, because extra long intro there, so I couldn't get the mic working. But we're here. We've got the mic working now, so that all seems pretty good. Yes, Exiled Minds podcast. I'll just a bit of a hot mic, turn that down a little bit. Yeah, Exiled Minds podcast with your incredibly famous host Liam Martin, and yeah, we've got a show today, episode number 41 of the Exiled Minds podcast. On today, well, I don't know if you should do the dates, make some timeless if you don't. So it's in 2023. In October. So yeah, Exiled Minds podcast just for posterity there. Today we're looking at the Enigma of the Blemmyes, the Headless Wonders, the alleged tribe of people that had no head. So, okay, thanks for, straight away there's someone in the chat there that said they was waiting in, so say hi. Hey, Rico, how's it going? So got my Nugget coffee ready to start this. Excellent. Sorry about the little delay there. Need to watch episode 40, Chasing the Will of the Wisp. Yeah, I'm doing there's a thingy tonight as well. Yeah, check that one. That turned out pretty nice actually. And I'm doing I figured out you can set a premiere on YouTube, and then you can like be there live while there's a replay going. So I've got a replay of the Mandala effect due to start at 11:30, sort of after this show kind of thing. So about half, yeah. So yeah, you can always tune in on that if you're not doing it before Solcido Paranormal starts. It'll be going live, sort of. How long is it now? 10, 12, about 3 hours from now. So yeah, that Mandala effect replay that should be finished before James starts, and then yeah, Troubled Minds Radio Network, KWP Digital Broadcasting. Anyway, enough of that. Let's. Never heard of the Blemmyes before. Sounds fascinating. Yeah, well, I've seen these images and I've seen it kind of come up. It's actually got inspired by a listener, the Troubled Minds Radio, and got to know the guy in the chat in the Discord. And yeah, Kelly. This is one from Kelly actually, because I've seen some. You see things, don't you? But it was Kelly that first brought to attention that it's the fact that there might be something more to this, and then it turns out there's a lot to it. So, welcome back to another captivating episode of the Exiled Minds podcast, and we'll explore the intriguing mysteries and enigmatic stories from across the globe, because this one, is a bit of an oldie worldy one, So in today's episode, we're going to delve into this baffling mystery, the world of the Blemmyes, the legendary headless people who have fascinated and perplexed scholars, explorers, and storytellers for centuries. So, everybody, especially Enrico, join us and embark on this journey through history, mythology, folklore, and uncover the truth about this enigmatic civilization. So, we're obviously going to try and look at are they quote unquote real, or merely like imaginative myths spun over time? Because that tends to be the thing. Or it's just made up stuff, nothing to it. So it's a bit like extremes, all the way one way or, or absolute there. So what's the origins of these headless people? That's what I want to look at. That's what I was hoping to see where this sort of comes from, and how did it become associated, and how does all this mystery stuff, what's associated with this mysterious group. So we'll explore the various accounts, descriptions of the Blemmyes from some of the ancient text, and maybe we'll look at some modern interpretations, trying to separate the fact from the fiction, so to speak. And so to start with them, let's get my ugly mush off the screen. And there's a couple of cool things here. I mean, there's a bit of a spoiler that there's all kinds of images and sort of stuff, but we'll just we'll get rid of this. Share this screen here. Where's my share screen? Let me got that there. Sorry, I thought I had all this ready to go. Where's my screen? I'll have to select a new window. Yeah, because I've got this one here. So we've got some it's even in Wikipedia. This is the thing. This is the thing about it. It's even the Blemmyes, headless people. You won't think. I mean, Wikipedia is not the best resource in the world for accuracy, simply because you can, like, 100%, because you can people just change it, right? Obviously, so it's going to be a bit of an issue, but it does come up. It's kind of ridiculous, right? You know, so it seems one of them that you would just throw out, but honestly, check it out because it's in Wikipedia as well. So we'll just read off the bat then. Let's see what Wikipedia says about it. So one of the Blemmyes from a map by, so there's an image straight away, in a colour image, and it's showing one of them. Like they've kind of like just got no heads, but they've got a face more in the chest on the torso. Okay, it looks really odd. But this is from a map by Blemmyes le Testu. Okay, so Blemmyes le Testu did a map of it, so he's attesting to it. Perhaps where we get the term from, Testu, the testing. So various. Okay, so it says various species of mythological headless men are rumoured in antiquity and later to inhabit remote parts of the world, variously known as the Egphalon by the Greek, or headless ones, or the Blemmyes in Latin, Greek, which describes the lacking of a head, with the facial features on the chest. So I suppose it's like saying chest people. These were first described as inhabitants of ancient Libya or the Nile system. That's so we're talking Africa then, right? Or Egypt and stuff. So yeah, ancient Libya or Ethiopia, the Nile system, or around that way, right? So later traditions confided that the inhabitants were from a particular island on the Brazilian River, or shifted it to India. The Blemmyes are said to occur in two types, with eyes on the chest or with eyes on the shoulders. Etymology, as in the etymology, I do believe, is where the study of looking at the roots of where words come from, the meanings. Okay, so various etymologies have been proposed for the origins of the name Blemmyes, and the question is still considered unsettled. In antiquity, the actual tribe known as the Blemmyes was said to be named after King Blemmyes, so it's a bit, like a namesake sort of thing situation. According to the known as 5th century epic Dionysiaca. Okay, I really butchered that. But yeah, 5th century epic from Nonus. But no law about headlessness is attached to the people of this works. So people are saying that, it's because of King Blemmyes, and they're calling it that, but they're never talking about headless people. So where does that association with headless? It's not really there. So that's one of the debunkers' situations that's got debunked. Okay, so it's not because of King Blemmyes. Samuel Bochart of the 17th century derived the word Blemmyes came from the Hebrew ble, without, or mark, brain, implying the Blemmyes were people without brains, although not necessarily without heads. But flipping that, you can sort of say, without a head, you've apparently got no brain, it seems. Or there could just be a slur calling people brainless. The Greek variation is blemma, to look, glance, and mo, close the eyes, has also been suggested. So close the eyes, people. Or look, glance, people. Maybe that could be a reference to, like, when you take a second look, like you look twice. Yeah, that could be that. I wonder if it's that. Anyway, so look twice has been suggested, and Wolfgang Helck claimed Coptic word blind. It is a Coptic word for blind, for its etymology for Blemmy, blind. So, okay. But then again, you might assume that you're blind you're blind when you can't turn your head. You've got to turn your whole body. In fact, that's a joke in the it's a bit of a joke that Samuel L. Jackson makes in the old in the Marvel thing when Tony Stark says to him, "Oh, because he's got the eye patch and he's got all these screens on his super duper flying carrier." And he's like, "How do you see all the screens? With the patch?" And he's like, "Oh, he turns." So it must be exhausting. But yeah, you can't see quite as well, can you? And I suppose you won't quite have the peripheral vision if your kind of bodies or arms are in the way. It's kind of getting in your way a little bit, I suppose, as well. So they're going to be, in a manner of speaking, compared to this design, a little bit slightly impaired. So I can kind of see that if they were actually headless as well. It says in 1895 it was proposed that it's derived from the Blemmyes, so Blemmyes desert people. Okay, but Sudan and Africa and Libya, that's kind of deserty anyway. Although the theory had long been neglected, the etymology has come into acceptance alongside the identification of Abidjai people, a true descendant of the Blemmyes of yore. But again, that's going to be referring to people related coming from that king who's not really related. So again, it's not a good debunking opportunity. It says in antiquity, the first indirect reference to the Blemmyes occurs with Herodotus. Okay, history is where he calls them the Akepholi, as we mentioned earlier. Akepholi, without a head. Okay, so let's look then. Right, so I thought, right, okay. So with Herodotus, if that's going to be the first mentioning then, right, for ancient Greece, then before we go any further and look where it might be in other places and people are referencing it, let's person, right? That's what I'm going to say. Let's look at the very, very first person, Herodotus then. So let's check this dude out. Who is it? If this is the first account, right, then I submit we want to know what this guy's like, credibility is, because that's the thing that you're supposed to do with when you hear about alien encounters and someone a cornfield has had a UFO landed in it. You're supposed to kind of people ask the wrong questions. They ask about the UFO, don't they? They need to be asking, kind of finding out about the person to gauge a bit of credibility, sort of thing. But yeah, but Herodotus. Let's see what it says then. So Herodotus. In a biography of history and facts, this is from Britannica, as in encyclopediabritannica.com. So Herodotus, it's an official account. So it was born possibly 1840. We're saying is 484 BCE. Died in about 430 C. Okay. So, okay, we're saying, yeah, all right then. So we're saying Herodotus was 484 BCE to 420 BCE. Okay, right, Herodotus. They're not really sure exactly, but about 400 years before Christ. Okay, so that's a while ago. Now, why is Herodotus important? Herodotus has been called the father of history. Okay, so he's been known as the father of history, an engaging narrator with deep interest in customs of people he described. He remains the leading source of original historical information, not only for Greece between 550 and 479 BCE, but also for much of Western Asian and Egypt at the time. So that's the thing about ancient Greece and all the stuff that comes from ancient Greece. They're influencing everybody. Every man and his dog. Okay. Now, what did Herodotus write? Herodotus' history is an account of the Greco-Persian Wars. Okay, famous in the Spartans and that, Greco against the Persians. All right. Darius and Xerxes. Okay, so the Greco-Persian Wars, which is 499 479 BCE, so that during his era, and the story of growth and organization of the Persian Empire. Herodotus covers the empire's geography, the social culture, the history before describing the events which led to Xerxes' invasion of Greece and the Greek city-states uniting to defeat his army. Okay, so what we see in 300. Right, so that's historical stuff. So this guy was a historical guy writing history that we all look to and say, yeah, okay, and this is ancient Greek stuff, right? We get all that stuff from. So what did Herodotus do? Remember, he's saying that these Blemmyes people were totally legit and whatnot. Okay, so what did he do? In addition to writing, Herodotus travelled widely. Okay, travelled widely. He went to places. He went to these places, visiting a large part of the Persian Empire. He went to Egypt, Libya, Syria, Babylonia, Susa, Elam, Lydia, Phrygia. He journeyed up to Hellespont and to the Byzantium, yeah. He visited Thrace, Macedonia, and travelled beyond Danube and Scythia, and as far as the Don River. Okay, so this guy's travelled to a lot of places, and in fact, he did draw a map of all the known world to him, sort of thing. So Herodotus. So let's get back to the script then, right? So the reason I'm bringing up Herodotus and focusing on the person, because I want to look at the kind of like sort of credibility. Okay, so let's get back to the Blemmyes, and then we'll talk about Herodotus and why he's relevant. So while we're looking at this, then these Blemmyes with the physical description of having lacking a head or facial features placed on the torso, which sort of sounds really, really weird. But these are all the common depictions, okay? Or having eyes and a mouth on the chest, or the eyes on the shoulders. This guy's travelled all over Europe and Asia, and the Blemmyes are typically associated between in the regions of North Africa and the Nile River. Right? This guy's travelled all over the place, and this guy Herodotus, they say they called him the father of sort of history. So he's a credible person from some of the earliest accounts. Okay, so let's see what people have got to say about this guy then in world history, because we've had a look at the textbook version from Encyclopedia Britannica. So let's have a look. Let's see what they're saying here then. So Herodotus, historian famous for his histories, where he's writing all about he was known as the father of history. He was writing about the empires, but he was also taken down. You see, he was writing a lot of this stuff, and they also people who rejected his works called him the father of lies. His critics called him the father of lies, but he was relevant. Yeah, he wrote the histories. He was revered. Like I say, he influenced all those different sort of regions, everyone that's doing civilization at the time, looking to the ancient Greeks. And it says, while it was true Herodotus sometimes relays inaccurate information or exaggerates for effect, his accounts have consistently been found to be more or less reliable. Some early criticisms of his works had been refuted by later archaeological evidence, which proves that his most often criticised claims were in fact accurate. I'll just highlight that for the video, and I'll read that. I'll read this whole little section again. While it is true that Herodotus sometimes relays inaccurate information or exaggerates for effect, his accounts have consistently been found to be more or less reliable. Some early criticisms of his work have been refuted by later archaeological evidence that proves that his most often criticised claims were in fact accurate, were based on accepted information of the time, or the result of mistranslation or misinterpretation on his part. So they're kind of like saying, evidence found out it was true, but maybe we got it wrong because we misinterpreted what he was saying, or maybe he mistranslated and led us down the wrong path. But no, father of history, really reliable. Okay, again, he did a map, we'll get to in a minute, But Herodotus, this is the thing about Herodotus, whether or not this Blemmyes stuff's true. So we'll get back to this in a sec. But just because I'll have to do a break coming up. But I just want to really draw this point home, because Plato is also a key figure in all of this stuff. And Plato is famous for talking about Atlantis, but Herodotus talked about Atlantis as well. And the reason them two connect is because Herodotus was the teacher of Plato. This is why this guy's the guy. He's the teacher of Plato, and he was a teacher of Aristotle as well. Okay, so now I've name dropped them. So who's Plato? People say he's famed for writing about Atlantis, but so he's around that time sort of being taught by Herodotus, and by any reckoning one of the most dazzling writers in Western literature tradition, and one of the most penetrating, wide-ranging and influential authors in the history of philosophy. An Athenian citizen of high status, he displays in his works his absorption in political events and intellectual movements of his time, but the questions that he raises are profound, and the strategies he uses of tackling so richly suggestive and provocative that educated readers of nearly every period have in some way been influenced by him. Because he was OP, he's the granddaddy OG, right? But he's learning from Herodotus. Okay, these are key people. And in practically every age there have been philosophers who count themselves as Platonists in some important respects. He was not the first thinker or writer of whom the word philosopher should be applied, but he was so self-conscious about how philosophy should be conceived that it was the scope and ambition properly and transformed into okay, yeah, I remember there's a thing about this, yeah. He's almost revered like a god, but he wanted to make a point of telling everyone to, oh, hi Daryl, see you in the chat there, see you in the chat. But yeah, sorry, Plato he's almost like revered these days so much, he's almost like a god. But it's ironic because he always wanted to get people to be thinking for themselves. That was his sort of, deal. And he got attacked as well, for his stuff. But again, Socrates, he's another one. They're all learning from this. Socrates, he's another one that's in this lineage. Do you know what I'm saying? So the point I'm really trying to drill home here is that I have to take a radio break in a minute. But the point I'm trying to drill home here is that Herodotus, okay, here's the guy here, Herodotus. He's teaching Socrates and Plato and Aristotle. We're talking those people, these heady groups that thought I was really, really smart. They've all learned from this guy. So he's hardly the father of lies, is it? Is the point I'm making? He's big time. He's big time. And that's where we're wearing all these big names coming from this lineage of teachings. So I just want that to be taken into sort of consideration, because the reality is that we do in fact have this weird stuff that happens. But I'm just going to do a quick little break because I'm trying to do radio clock stuff, and then we'll come in after the break, and we'll really dig into this, because I just want to drive this point that the original accounts are coming from a person that's really actually really reliable and really credible. But anyway, we'll just do a quick little radio break because I'm trying to be all professional and stuff. Well, I am all professional and stuff. That's why I'm going to fade this in all professionally, like that.
To begin.
Anyway,
at the beginning.
Just a few minutes for a radio break, radio clock stuff.
It is spring,
you later.
Moonless night in the small town,
I can just
starless and Bible black. The cobble streets silent and the hunched quarters and rabbits wood limping invisible down to the slow black, crow black, fishing boat bobbing the sea. The houses are blind as moles, though moles see fine tonight in the snouting velvet dingles.
Hiya. So yeah, before we take that break, I just wanted to quickly. There's an article I forgot to read in that with the radio clock time, and I think I've got enough time to just quickly cover this. So there's one more article just before I come back from the break. So we've talked about the philosophers and where this stuff's originally come from. Okay, But the Blemmy, they've got a bit more backup here in this article, which I just wanted to quickly mention, because it backs up where this originally sort of come from through, you know, not only the ancient writers, but where I personally heard about it first and saw the pictures. So from Kelly, which we'll get to. So from heritagedaily.com, we've got this headline: Falcon Shrine. Discovery contains previously unknown ancient rituals. Okay, so it's just about ritual, but the Blemmyes come in here. So let's read the article then. So this is from... Well, it's not dated. Okay, no worries. So heritagedaily.com. Archaeologists from the SICAIT project, that's SIKAIT, SICAIT project, directed by Professor Joan Oller Guzman from the Autonomous University of Barcelona, have uncovered a shrine containing previously unknown ancient rituals during excavation at Berenike in it's Berenike. So Berenike, a Greco-Roman seaport in the ancient Egyptian Eastern Desert. Berenike is also known as Berenice, Troglodytica. Okay, Troglodytica. That sounds like the troglodytes that lived underground. There's a separate thing, by the way. That is a genuine thing. That is the thing about troglodytes that might live. These nocturnal like people that have been forgotten in history, and the church know about it and stuff. So it's funny how it's called that same name. But anyway, so moving on. Yeah, reading this article for the we'll go on for the Blemmy stuff. So yeah, Eastern Desert, the same sort of region. They found some new kind of rituals, also known as, like I say, Bernice Troglodytica. Sounds a bit like the troglodytes. It was founded by Ptolemy or Ptolemy II in the 3rd century BC, who named after its mother, Bernice I of Egypt. The port city served as a trading centre with the east coast of Africa, India and Arabia, mainly for transportation of war elephants. As a result of the studies published in the American Journal of Archaeology describe the excavation of religious complex that reveals new discoveries linked to the presence of the Blemmyes. The Blemmyes were a nomadic Eastern Desert people first appearing in writings in the 7th century BC until the 8th century AD. The Greek term first appears in the 3rd century BC in one of the poems by Theocritus. So it's not just the big heady characters, Herodotus and whatnot. Theocritus, someone else has wrote about Rome as well. And described the Blemmyes as living in Megabaroi, a land between the Nile and the Red Sea of Meroe, Meroe pyramids in Sudan. So again, it's been written about, and now it's linked in with this new discovery of the Falcon Shrine. So again, it's starting to look like it's getting backed up again. History, archaeological evidence coming through again. So the religious complex named Falcon Shrine by researchers corresponds to the late Roman period of the 4th to 6th century. So late Roman period. So maybe the Romans wiped them out. You know, if they're still being talked about then and now not there, and they did get a bit angry, the Romans, at one time. Maybe they took them out before they fell or whatever. Maybe they hid away from the Romans because they're conquering everywhere. But yeah, so during this period, the city was partially occupied and controlled by the Blemmyes, indicated by the discovery of an inscription on a stele in a small traditional Egyptian temple, which after the 4th century AD was adapted to the Blemmyes of their own belief system. The material findings are particularly remarkable and include offerings such as harpoons, club-shaped statues, and stele with indications of religious activity, said the University of Autonomy Barcelona, UAB. So the team also found an arrangement of up to 15 falcons buried within the temple, which for the first time were accompanied by eggs, suggesting a previously unknown ancient ritual when compared to falcon burials in the Nile Valley. There's different stuff going on here. The stele contains an inscription which reads, "It is improper to boil a head in here." That's fair enough. Which far from being a dedication or a sign of gratitude, as normally corresponded with the inscription, is a message forbidding all those who enter from boiling the heads of animals inside the temple, considered to be a profane activity, according to Joe Noller. All of these elements point to intense ritual activities combining Egyptian traditions with contributions from the Blemmyes, sustained by the technological base sustained by the theological base, possibly related to the worship of the ancient god of the moon. So it looks like, they had some crossover. It's saying here that there's evidence of the Blemmyes at the Falcon Shrine, and there's some crossover in ancient Egypt, but they had some of their own ways. So they were kind of separate in a way. So I just wanted to quickly sort of throw that one in before we continue with that break and just kind of splice that bit in. But anyway, it's food for thought. So links in description. Yeah, you can always look these things up for yourself and dig a bit deeper. So anyway, back on with the break. Back on with the show. Exiled Minds podcast with me, Liam Martin. Well, hello. Welcome back to the Exiled Minds podcast with me, your incredibly handsome and famous host, Liam Martin. And today we are looking at the Enigma of the Headless people, the Blemmyes. So we've had a look at where the original historical sort of account started from. And it turns out it comes from a heady group from ancient Greece who we base all of our civilization on today. And back in the day when they were, when they were hot, when they were going, they say they were influencing everybody all around Arabia and at least North Africa as well. Because they're influencing Egypt and Libya. So yeah, they were a big influence. They were big. They were the big daddy cheese. So with this, we're going to really look into the Blemmyes a bit more now. But I just wanted to drive this point home that Herodotus, where they're originally coming from, is is well respected. Okay, calling him the father of history. So, okay, let's have a look then. So I'll get me off there. So if I look at Herodotus, he also, let's say, the lineage is Plato and Socrates and Aristotle, who again, another big heavyweight one. Aristotle was a part of the lineage of these teachings. So among the greatest philosophers of all time, which they said they're talking about with Plato, almost calling him not quite the father, but sort of. Right, almost like the grandfather. And Aristotle, among the greatest philosophers of all time, judged solely in terms of the philosophical influence, only Plato is his peer. Aristotle's work shaped centuries of philosophy from late antiquity through the Renaissance, and even continue today to be studied with keen non-antiquarian interest, as in people still think it's fresh, and it's not like thinking it's from old stuff just to study it. You've been forced to, got to read some Shakespeare, oh, damn it. No, it's because it's good stuff. It stood the test of time. So if this stands the test of time, then that means that I guess some of these things are true. And talking of the test of time, let's check. We had this other article first. Yeah, I don't know how to check this. Okay. Test of time. Let's just have a look at this Piri Reis map. I want to have a look at this for the video viewers. In fact, I got a zoomed in version. So we've got the Piri Reis map. Piri Reis is a famous map because it's really old. It was made by a Turkish admiral way back in the way, and this Turkish admiral claimed that he'd made that from way older maps, but compiled it from much older ones, much more ancient maps. And the Piraeus map is famous because it shows Antarctica without any ice on, as if it's from way maps so old before Antarctica had ice on. So a lot of people think of this as being a very accurate map. Okay, it's quite large, but I've got an image up here where I've done a zoom in. Okay, so we're going to quickly zoom in on this Piraeus map and a certain section. Just wanted to show for the video views it's the same thing. But yeah, check it out. Here's the Piraeus map. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, we've got the Piraeus map and we've got this image. So a big Piraeus map. It's in the bottom, towards the bottom sort of left corner. You can see there's a feature. One of them. There's a circle. There's two circles on the Piraeus map with these lines radiating out, not like navigational points. But near one of them, in the bottom left corner of the map, you can see there's a guy on the coast. He's got a face on his chest. He ain't got a head. He's got more. It looks like fire or red hair or something on the top of him. Whether that's some actual hair or whether he's on fire or whether something comes out of the top of his head or whether he's angry. You know, I mean, like symbolic fire. But yeah, I don't know what the red is. I don't know. But yeah, he's got this red above him. And yeah, it's just kind of crashing down a bit. And there's a guy with a face in his chest. So it's on the Piraeus map. He's incidentally next to some guy who seems to have been offering him some fruit who looks, I don't know, like a snouted fellow. Maybe I thought a monkey at first, but he's more like a reptile. So I don't know. But there's this Piraeus map, ancient map, is definitely showing a Blemmyes. So I thought that was a good catch. The interesting little side note, because it's on one of the most ancient maps that there is. Okay, and it's on another map. I went looking through maps in history, and I found another article. Again, I made another little blow up image. But again, with the Piraeus map, we've got another image, which is yeah, can we see it on this website? It's not showing it. Try reloading it. There we go. Here's another map here, which again, it shows if you for the video viewers, there's another map, and this is, I've put the links in the description so you can find this. This is from sendersyourmaps.com, and this is from a mapping of an antique map of Guyana by T.H. de Bry, 1599. Okay, and in this map we see on the bottom there's two figures. They're quite large figures on the map, you know, so they're quite sort of obvious, and one of them is a Blemmyes, quite sort of clearly. You know, if I zoom in on the map a little bit for the video, quite clearly a headless person, and they've got a really large bow, like a long bow that's as big as they are. And he's next to a woman who's also got a long bow, who's as big as she is. So, you know, it says above it, I don't know what language this is or anything, it says Ein man de langs ral panoma ortic kopf. So if anyone knows, I probably butchered the hell out of that, but yeah, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a Blemmyes on a map from 1599, and one that's dating before that, but is supposed to have made from way more ancient maps, even more older than that. Okay, so I mean, that's what we've got there. So I mean, going on with my script, let me just stick back with the script there. So we've had a look at a Redditor's early accounts. Okay, he's talked about it. He come up with him. His lineage is teaching people like Plato, and you've got Aristotle, Socrates, all coming from this same teachings. These are really revered people. Okay, so this is some serious this is history as far as I'm concerned. So the question is for me, why ignore these more wild parts of it and then accept others? Why revere them so much? almost a godlike status, like I mentioned, which is ironic for the likes of Plato wanted you to think for yourself. But why? Why not? Why throw these things out, or like talk of giants or strange creatures that are a bit chimeric, you know? That's my big question, and I think it's because it's too wild for some. And that's what I reckon it is. I mean, it's not. They're not the dropping them down as unfortunate fables or massive exaggerations or outright lies, but they're taking everything else, and I just don't get it. So I think that means that these people, for real, even based on a base level thing, because the ancient Greeks famously had the Spartans. So even on a base level, you can revere them for maybe creating arguably the finest soldiers the world's ever seen, you know, the Spartan stuff. So you'd think, you know, these are acceptable people. We've built civilization on it. What do you need? Do you need the fighting of it to impress you, or do you need the philosophical, intellectual side of it to impress you? Do you need democracy to impress you? What do you need from the Greeks? Do you need the architecture? Because they made a wonder of the world. So, in fact, they made two. I think they made two wonders of the world, the ancient Greeks. I'm pretty sure they had the Temple of Zeus, but that it was the building as well. Did they make the Temple of Artemis as well? I'm sure they had two of the ancient ones. They might have even had three, actually. So they might have done the lighthouse as well, but I'm not sure about that. But anyway, yeah. So they knew this stuff, man. And like I say, okay, so the question is, why ignore it? I think just burying that stuff because they don't want us thinking about. There used to be some different stuff, and maybe some of these things are real. It's like they don't want you going down the cryptid road. That's what I think it is. They don't want you going down the cryptid route. Is what I'm thinking, because there's something to this stuff. So anyway, so the Blemmyes. I'll just jump back down to my script there. So the historical accounts have come up with numerous explorers. There's been, like I say, there's always historians. There's been travellers from the ancient world, including Pliny the Elder, Pomponius Mela mentioned the Blemmyes in the writings. Many of these accounts are based on heresy, myth, and unverified reports, supposedly contributing to it. But the myth. But that's because we're kind of burying this stuff. So the interpretations and theories of the stories in general have been that there are ongoing debate among scholars whether or not the Blemmyes are entirely mythical, based on misunderstood accounts of people, or in fact some kind of factual basis for the existence. Okay. Some theories suggested that depictions of the Blemmyes may have been influenced by the practices of real indigenous African tribes, who wore garments covered the heads, giving the appearance of faceless figures or to outsiders. And I thought about that, and I thought, nah, I bet people have been putting covers on themselves since forever. You're not going to fall for that unless you unless you wore like big shoulder pads that were really tall, as big as your head, and then put something over, and it kind of made it. I don't know. That's reaching a bit for me. Do you know what I'm saying? But in the legacy and the mythology, the Blemmyes became a prominent element in the folklore and the mythology of the time, often portrayed as mysterious and exotic beings. Their headless nature was sometimes used as a metaphor for strangeness and otherness in ancient literature. In essence, Blemmyes remain a tantalizing enigma in history, with their existence, a true nature shrouded in mystery, subject to much speculation, except not so much because we've got them written in the maps and they keep bringing it up. So I don't know how long would you keep writing about people who aren't real. And it's historians writing about it as well. But like modern historians today, just start writing about something. You wouldn't start writing about, gorillas. They were thought to be myth, and then you discover, oh yeah, these gorillas. Is it gorillas? There's some, yeah. Gorillas in the Mist, yeah, that film about it. So it's like, you won't then look back in a few centuries and say, oh yeah, all the apes are real except for gorillas. You know what I'm saying? And even giant gorillas, what's the famous Gigantopithecus? There used to be a giant ape that people think might be like a Bigfoot that survived and stuff. So, annals of history, try and throw these things out. But anyway, yeah. So Herodotus, so it's all coming down from the ancient Greek stuff, and these Blemmyes, I found, well, Kelly in the Discord actually was where I first kind of came up with this. One of the listeners of Trouble Minds Radio. This is where I first got into this. See, he started posting some of the images, and so this is what sort of got me onto it. And I've looked for as many images as I can get, but he had one particular image because he posted a few over time. There's one particular image I couldn't seem to find anywhere. It's a photograph. It looks like a photograph image rather than these old depictions and maps and stuff. So, but from what the research is sort of saying with historical accounts, these Blemmyes, again, it's like they're from Africa, Eastern Desert people who appeared in the writings, like say, from the 7th century BC until the 8th century AD. So they were being written about for what? What's that? 11 centuries. So, by the 4th century, they had occupied Lower Nubia and established a kingdom. The Eratosthenes described the Blemmyes as living in a Megabaroi. Sorry. So that's where they lived, in Megabaroi. This is the land between the Nile and the Red Sea. So given specific places north of Meroe, that's Sudan. King Meroe, Meroe pyramids. So and Strabo is located them in Aswan, describing them as nomadic raiders, but not bellicose. In later writings, the Blemmyes are described as stereotypical terms as a barbarian living in the south of Egypt. Okay. Pomponius Mela and Pliny the Elder turn them into headless beings with their faces on their chests. Okay, so that kind of makes it sound like there's some kind of like they're doing some kind of magical, or that someone's done a magical spell on them to transform them into that, which then makes it kind of seem silly. Except we've done some stuff on magic now and found out some of that stuff's real, but that seems a bit much. That's the glowy and floaty, right? That's like the Harry Potter wizard stuff, transforming people. However, remember, this is from ancient Greek lineage and ancient history stuff, and we're finding it on ancient maps. 1599, the one on screen, and one from before, from the Pure East, which is probably really ancient. And so, what we're talking about here, and bearing in mind this idea of casting a magic spell and metamorphosizing someone, well, there was a guy, now I come to think of it, again in the ancient Greek stuff, it wasn't Herodotus, who was it? Ovid. I'm going to look it up now live, quickly, before we have to, wind up the show. But Ovid wrote about some crazy stuff. Let's have a look. Because Ovid wrote his most famous works were Metamorphosis. Literally about metamorphosis, where we get the Gorgon and Medusa turning things to stone. So let's see if we can get some of the writings of Ovid. I'll just jump on Britannica, just see what it says about this. Okay, so let's have a look. So Encyclopedia Britannica, what we've got is Ovid, Latin. Latin info is Publius Ovidius Naso. Okay, so the life of Ovid. So Ovid, like most Roman men of letters, a provincial, he was born at Sulmo, a small town 90 miles east of Rome. The main events of his life are described as autobiographical poems of the Tristia, or sorrows. So he's writing the sorrows. So it's like he's a reporter on the doom porn, the fear news at the time. His family was old and respectable, and sufficiently well to do for his father to be able to send him and his eldest brother to Rome to be educated. But Rome he embarked, and so when he goes to Rome, and under the best teachers of the day, he studies on the study of rhetoric. Ovid was thought to have the makings of a good orator, but in spite of his father's admonitions, he neglected his studies on verse writing that came so naturally to him. So he was good at verse writing, but he didn't really study very hard. Okay, as a member of the Roman knightly class, Ovid, again, this is a high up there people, the Roman knightly class, okay, whose rank lay between the commons and the senate. Okay, so it's like House of Commons guy, a senator, senators at the top, right up there. So he's in between. So he's like next up from step down from senator, I think. Ovid marked by his position and intended by his father for official career. First, however, he spent some time in Athens. It was a favourite finishing school of young men of the upper classes, and travelled to Asia Minor and Sicily. Afterwards, he dutifully held some minor judicial posts, the first steps on the official ladder, but he soon decided that public life did not suit him. From then on, he abandoned his official career to cultivate poetry and society and the Society of Poets. Okay, but Ovid, so people throw his stuff away because they say, oh, he was just a poet, he was just talking poetry and he was messing about, but he was a scholarly guy that went to the top like boarding schools of the day. And you don't just write rubbish, do you? Especially when it's tying in with all these other historian people. And he wrote about metamorphosis, and this is where the idea of the Gorgon's head comes from. Metamorphosis. Oh, I spelled it all wrong, but it'll come up. Yeah. So metamorphosis. So what's metamorphosis? I'll just get rid of my thing there. So from Wikipedia, quick live. Metamorphosis, from the ancient Greek, transformate, meaning transformations, okay, is a Latin narrative from 8 CE by the Roman poet Ovid. It is considered his magnus opus. It was his great works. This is his great works. And they're calling them poems. But I think the historical accounts, but well written, because say he's a good verse writer. Okay, so he's wrote them in epics. Right, but we're just not taking him seriously. People are throwing him out. So the poem chronicles the history of the world from its creation to the all the way to Julius Caesar, and is a mythico-historical framework comprising of 250 myths in 15 books, 11,999 lines. He got attacked as well, by the way, in history. They really went after him. But then he was supposed to, you've got to remember the story there. It was being earmarked to be a top politician, and he didn't want to do it. He started getting into it a bit, and he decided to now tell people about other stuff, about how the world goes, and write about the world. So he decided to be a reporter instead of a politician, in a sense, and he got shut down, right? And they're saying his works is rubbish. But he's talking about how the gods were just doing stuff, just metamorphosizing people, that kind of stuff, like that sounds like magic happens. So I'm wondering if in some ways that's what's happened here, like the Gorgon head turning people to stone. Seemed to have been a thing, because he used to talk about how the gods were turning some of the landscape giants, because they were writing about giants as well, and he was saying some of the giants were being killed off by being turned into stone by the gods and becoming part of the landscape, and the gods would do it on purpose to like make garden ornaments out of the giants. It sounds nuts, but these are the ancient writers of the ancient history, so it sounds crazy. So let me just I tantalised you on a picture here, so let's have a look at this image that Kelly sent, because I've got one that looks as if it might just be a photograph. So for the video viewers, we'll do that at the end there. Here's one that it looks like a photograph. I mean, I don't know, someone's made it in Photoshop, but it's an image of a guy. It looks like a tribes guy because he's got something tied around his waist. It looks like a loincloth. It's like he's holding some sword to his shoulder. Like you do. It's like he's got a sheath holding down in the other hand, pointing towards the ground. And he's just like a regular guy, except where his pectorals are, it's like got a small, what looks like a mouth just underneath it, bottom lip. and his eyes are at the top of his pec muscles would be, and where the head should be is just not there at all. You know, just as a slight little bit of a lump, almost like a mohawk lump. It looks like a bit of a hump. Might even have a tuft of hair as well towards the back. And his eyes look a bit larger than they would be on a face. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's a real picture, but for the video viewers, it's a bit of a treat to see that. So I don't know. But it's when it mentioned the magic. I mean, you look into this yourself. There is a lot of historical accounts apparently from lots of different sources. So I don't know if that means it's true or it's whether it means, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. People might just repeating the same thing, but it's coming on for centuries and centuries and centuries, and they're depicted in maps from different eras. So it almost seems like probably for real. You know, so if it were true, that picture, that image I showed probably is a good account of it, what they actually look like. So that's what I've got. So that's we'll all wrap the show up now. Stick to the radio clock. But yeah, I just thought I'd drill home there with the history of these sort of ancient philosophers and the writers, because, like I say, this stuff seems to be legit. If they're writing about it, and we're just throwing it away now, I think that's a case. And we're in the information age, and it's all about narrative now. It's number one weapon. So anyway, I got to wrap it up. So that was me, Liam Martin, the Exiled Minds podcast, the Enigma of the Blemmyes, Headless Wonders. We've had a little look into that. So I guess we'd better get some show music on, and we'll wrap up the show then. So thanks very much for tuning in, Daryl. Thanks, Eriko. Thanks for being there. I appreciate when people are live, and I know I've been a bit inconsistent, but I'm back on it now. I got all my equipment and everything seems to be working. So we'll get on with doing a professional fade in for the break then. So thanks for joining us on the Exiled Minds podcast, and tune into the Troubled Minds Radio Network as well. KWP Digital Broadcasting, and remember to like, share, and subscribe. Anyway, thanks very much. Thanks for joining us. Catch you again soon. See you later.
It's not unprecedented. The ostrich egg is a single cell and it can grow up to 5 pounds.
Because we were almost impacted by Venus. This is all fully understood. And the astrophysicists have to look at this, and the people that are geologists and all the is.
They supersize the common cold, which, as it turns out, is disgusting.
Obviously, somebody's playing with us.
Yeah, they're showing off. Killing epidemiologists with the common cold. It is impressive.
All the is. What's this?
I want to know who's next.
Police identified as contrived, but the computer went off the chart.
Maybe we can figure out who's next.
Normal human beings have 40 DNA memo groups. It wasn't enough for it to perpetuate itself. This had 200,000.
You did it. What was that? How did you do it? Did you have that?
It was September. He was part of the original 12 sign travel back into himself. Humanity. He was banished for sympathy. Fugitives I'm tracking. The same fugitives were in possession of the anomaly.
Go to such lands to protect a genetic defect.
I do